All right. Greetings, gods and goddesses. In training, welcome back to the channel. It's great to be back. It's great to connect with everybody. And today we're speaking primarily about a very interesting topic because I've seen this topic come up way more, especially in the last few years, the concept of a prison planet. And I think the idea comes from generally from Gnosticism and this idea that there's this demiurge, like kind of controlling society and so forth. However, I want to kind of break it down through the way that I see it, okay? Because I honestly think Primal Sutra gives people back the agency to understand that we can't blame our life on archons or reptilians or, evil people from the moon with moon bases and start going into conspiracy rabbit holes so much that we forget to thrive and stay in our own sovereignty and become disciplined and reliable, right? So the thing is, you are flirting with the prison planet content because it makes you feel super special. It makes you feel unique. It makes you feel that I'm on to something. I'm gonna crack a code here. Okay. However, it gives your ego a villain to point to, doesn't it? Okay. And the ego loves that. The fact that you're embellishing, right, in this cosmic drama, the ego's going, oh yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this concept. Okay. Let's share a whiteboard. So, first of all, a prison planet is actually a very violent imagery, isn't it? Because a prison is a cage. Prison is somewhere where you're trapped. And a planet, somewhere where we live. It evolves over time, right? So, if we're trapped, what's the point of growing? What's the point of evolving? Now, some people might say that the main religions of the world, right? They all hold the theory that we're trapped in this realm. Okay? I'm not going against materialism or, physicality. In fact, Primal Sutra merges both. So we start to understand that perhaps a lot of people are selling transcendence while secretly believing that they're trapped. And the thing about it is, the prison planet claim says that we're in this kind of karmic farm, right? Trapped by samsara, let's say, by malevolent, malevolent beings is its main agenda, right? However, let's look at these different ones, right? Hinduism. Hinduism, okay, has Indra's net, right? Now, Indra's net is this idea from, I think it's a Hindu and Buddhist cosmology where they talk about Indra's net, but mainly it teaches this kind of infinite reflective interconnection is there, right? So every jewel reflects every other jewel in this context. So that means that's not incineration, it's holography, right? It's showing the holographic universe and how this is all an illusion. So if it's all an illusion and it's a play, it's Leela, how is it also a prison? Okay? So I'm going to get into why it's a trauma response in a minute, but let me just give you a bit of a background here, okay? Now, the first thing for you to understand is in the Mandukya Upanishad, okay, it said that the world is a projection of consciousness. All right. And this is also referred to as a fourth state of consciousness called Turiya. Okay. So projection doesn't mean it's a prison. It means it's a self-generated experience, correct? So it's kind of like a video game or a school of some sort. It's not a prison, right? And Krishna's Vishvarupa reveals reality as divine play. Okay? Divine play, Lila or Lila. And a prison implies coercion, right? Lila implies voluntary immersion. So that means we see this aspect of playfulness and fun and how life is meant to be joyous, right? So why limit ourselves into thinking that the asuras are coming for us, right? Yes, there's a lot of the cope in Hinduism too. Oh, we're in the Kali Yuga. Oh, we can't get out of chaos, right? There's bitter and pessimistic people out there, but that doesn't mean we have to start to just, merge with that way of thinking about things, right? And again, Shiva's Nataraja dances creation and destruction. So the dance actually symbolizes a rhythmic manifestation happening, not an entrapment, okay? And karma in Orthodox Vedanta is educational causality, okay? It's not a punishment. It's feedback mechanics, okay? And if this were a prison, why is moksha or liberation only possible through knowledge? Why would the warden provide yogic techniques that dissolve the system? You get what I'm saying, guys? Give me a thumbs up if you resonate in this video, okay? So, this is a powerful understanding that a prison doesn't hand inmates the blueprint to escape, right? So the material world is fallen and ruled by dark powers, right? But doesn't in the Gospel of Thomas, doesn't it? Let's look at Christianity, right? What does it say in the Gospel of Thomas? The kingdom is spread out upon the earth, okay? And men do not see it, right? So that's blindness. It's not a bondage, okay? It's not a bondage. The early desert fathers taught the battlefield is the mind, called it logismoi, okay? It's an inner warfare. It's not a cosmic incineration that's happening, okay? And also in Christian mystics, like Hildegard of Bingen, right? He saw creation as radiant with divine light, not demonic architecture, okay? Incineration and incarnation are different things. Incarnation theology says God enters matter. So if matter were a prison, think about this, guys. Really think about this. If matter were a prison, incineration, I mean, incarnation, would be contamination, right? If God enters matter and matter was a prison, incarnation would be contamination. So even Christian esotericism says you're not trapped, you're asleep. I'm writing with one hand on a mouse pad, okay, guys? So this is going to be bad handwriting. Okay, let's look at Buddhism. Buddhism says that samsara and nirvana are described as non-dual in Mahayana texts. Okay, so that means samsara is nirvana and nirvana is samsara. Okay, this is a very high paradigm, by the way. I'm giving you guys, okay? And the wheel of samsara, by the way, is a psychological state. It's not a literal cage that you're trapped in, by the way. Okay? And Zhou Chen teaches primordial purity, or kadag. If awareness is primordially pure, then who imprison it? Okay? And the bodhisattvas voluntarily incarnate, right? Voluntary return contradicts this kind of prison narrative, because why would you want to come back to a prison? Okay? If reality were a forced farm, then enlightenment would be system failure. Instead, enlightenment is recognition. Okay? Let's look at Sufism and Islam. I know they're different, but it's nice to go into the esoterics of it a little bit. All right, so Alam al-Mital is this concept that Sufis call the world a mirror. Okay? This world is a mirror of our own psyches. So that means it's not a prison. Okay? Rumi describes separation as illusion, generated by the ego veils or the nafs. Dunya, right, is a concept of dunya is distraction, right? Not incarceration. Islamic cosmology also, you'll notice, includes multiple worlds, right? The human realm is developmental. It doesn't have like a penal code or like some kind of you're getting punished for your bad deeds or something like this. The prison plan narrative thrives because it externalizes your blame, okay? Why does it thrive? This mentality, right? It thrives because it externalizes blame, it flatters the believer, I know the hidden truth, it creates a tribal superiority, right? It reduces complexity into a villain story, and it's a psychological projection and a trauma response, okay? So if we start to adopt this kind of prison planet energy, then it starts morphing people into very fear-based beings. Okay, people start to stagnate, and unconsciously we start to justify mediocrity, right? It creates kind of a pessimism because if you want to be sovereign, then stop looking for archons and start looking at your sleep schedule, start looking at your discipline, right? Your business systems, your testosterone levels, and so forth. Like instead of escape the prison, it's master the game, right? Instead of we're trapped, it's this is an initiation chamber. Okay? So that means attention mismanagement harvests your potential. So we got to know where we're putting our attention. Once we know, then it starts to take the power back, right? And once the power is back, everything else unfolds the way that it should, right? So that's the hard truth of it. Now, why in the world am I sensing and saying that this is a trauma response? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons. Trauma externalizes power. When someone experiences trauma and childhood powerlessness, chronic invalidation, religious fear conditioning, social humiliation, betrayal, loss of control, then the nervous system encodes that this world is unsafe. This planet is punishing me. I feel trapped. Then the brain searches for a metaphysical model that confirms that emotional memory. So the prison planet narrative provides you with a villain, someone to blame, a cosmic explanation, a reason why you feel oppressed, and a justification for helplessness. So it converts your emotional pain into a cosmic myth, right? You think you're lower maxing, but it's just a pattern completion, right? Next thing to understand is cognitive distortions fuel it because trauma rewires our perception, right? Common distortions behind the prison narratives is something else is running everything, right? An external locus of control, or catastrophizing, everything is corrupted, or splitting it, light versus dark, good versus evil. Or what another cognitive distortion is projection, right? Inner chaos becomes these outer archons. Hypervigilance, seeing manipulation everywhere you go. Okay. So this actually mirrors a PTSD cognition. Because when the nervous system is dysregulated, the cosmos starts to feel hostile, right? So esoteric traditions, remember, they emphasize responsibility, right? Not entrapment. Across all Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, and Sufi mysticism, the veil is ignorance, the cage is perception, and liberation is recognition. Okay? The next thing to understand here, guys, is that trauma seeks meaning. Humans cannot tolerate meaningless suffering, right? So trauma does one of two things. Either I am broken, as a self-blame, or reality is broken, which is the cosmic blame. So Prison Planet is a cosmic blame with spiritual aesthetics. So it soothes our shame by relocating the responsibility outwards. It stops us from going inward, right? Next thing is it preserves the ego identity, the ego mind identity, the EMI, right? The prison narratives create special knowledge status. I know the truth. These other people don't. Everybody else is normies and sheep, right? Us versus them. Moral superiority, the sheeple that they just don't see it, I don't know, the NPCs that they can't catch the spiritual wave like I can, right? Okay, spiritual flexing for no reason, for no apparent reason. And community bonding through a shared paranoia, right? That's an identity reinforcement, guys. Trauma wants certainty and belonging. Prison cosmology offers us both. So we got to be really mindful about how we're listening to these different ideologies, right? And conspiracies and even metaphysics, right? Learned helplessness rebranded as metaphysics. Because if you feel stuck in career, relationships, your body, your finances, isn't it emotionally easier to believe that the system is rigged by metaphysical aura farmers? Then I need discipline, I need skill acquisition, I need emotional healing, I need strategic execution, right? And most of this prison plan idea, guys, was from Monroe, right? And you know who Robert Monroe is, right? If you don't know, now you know. Look into him. You'll start to understand that that's a little bit sketchy. If the CIA is dropping these gateway products, project files, right? There's something sketchy about that going on. Okay. Yes, they're doing remote viewing. Yes, they're doing all of these different things that the new age has started to do. or have talked about for decades. However, the same idea is that one story gives dopamine through outrage and the other requires uncomfortable growth, right? And people don't want to do the uncomfortable growth. Who does? It sucks, right? It takes real gumption. It takes real like focus, laser sharp focus to get your soul mission done, right? The next is if you have a nervous system so that's very dysregulated, you will perceive the universe as hostile, right? When your sleep is poor, when your dopamine system is fried, when your cortisol is spiking, when that someone is consuming conspiracy content daily, their baseline perception shifts towards threat detection. So your dysregulated body is producing a dystopian cosmology, right? But if you regulate your nervous system, you'll start to notice, wait a second, reality is workable, right? Reality is workable. Unless we experience the whole prison planet thing as a shadow projection. So if someone feels lust or rage or envy or power hunger or fear, but then suppresses it, it gets projected as external demonic control, right? That's Jung 101, by the way. The archon symbolizes disowned drives, right? And why does it spread so fast? Because it gives you meaning, drama, identity, community, a reason not to change. And that's viral fuel, right? That's viral fuel. But the prison planet narrative is attractive to people who feel very small, powerless, and resentful, but they don't want to admit that. They will never admit that, actually. They'll always argue against it. So it's a trauma-shaped myth, guys. Not always. I'm not saying it's always, right? There's people out there that have genuinely done this inner work and they've gone into these processes. But if you're pushing escape the prison planet instead of master the game, there's something off. Okay? We as Primal Sutra, we want empowerment. We're not here for this fear theater. Okay? So ask yourself honestly, where in your life do you secretly feel trapped? Is it your body? Is it your finances? Is it your relationship? Is it your social hierarchy? Then you have to ask yourself, is it archons? Or is it skill and courage or shadow work that I've avoided? Answer that privately. You don't have to tell me, but then decide every single day what kind of leader you are becoming. And once you know, you won't start putting your power into the storyline anymore because you understand that the power has always been within you. You are the one who has made yourself a prisoner, and you're the one who holds the key that can break you out of it, right? So let's not externalize power. Let's understand that power and our experience of being conscious in this life, of being a creator in this life, is really what is required for us to get out of that learned helplessness into a thriving from a coping. Okay? So let's not use this prison planet as a cope. Let's start to actually thrive with how we resonate as pure beings on this planet, giving love to this planet because it's gone through so much suffering, right, on the planet. But again, the suffering comes from us identifying with what it means to you, what it means to me, which is why the greatest shadow work question is, why is that so bad? And what does it mean to me? What does it mean to my character that this happened? Okay, so ask yourself that. Start recognizing that there's a underlying belief system that's making you really go towards this prison planet lore. And it kind of feeds your ego a little bit. It feels good to understand that it was all the bad people. They did it, right? I don't have to take any responsibility. It's all them. It's all their fault, right? And these people get into a victim blaming mentality too. It's like they blame the government, they blame their next door neighbor, they blame the person down the street, but they cannot walk on their own journey or path. and say, and even show themselves, right? When you're hiding, it's easy to talk about conspiracies and all this kind of stuff in the background. But there's a visibility wound there as well for a lot of these people. So you got to understand, put yourself out there, start leaning into a better narrative, choose the better narrative because you are the author of your life. Okay? Just because you read some kind of Gnostic text doesn't make you like this paranoid mystic all of a sudden, right? You don't need to go there. You don't need to go there. You can thrive with the power that you know that you have because you're here for a very specific and unique reason. So start doubling down on that, okay? I hope you have an incredible rest of your day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. You got this. We got this. Upward Spiral Gang to infinity and beyond. Let's keep winning.